Hey, what is up, the party people? Alright, hey, maybe I should cut it out with those accents. Okay, this is Pat, and we are here with another How to Webcomic module. Today we're going to be narrowing down our choices and trying to come up with a theme for your comic. Where should you start? What should you write about? What should you draw? Well, basically the first place you should start is the place where what got you interested in doing a webcomic in the first place. Whether it was somebody else's webcomic, whether it was a spark idea, whether it's short stories that you're writing and you just want to take a new form, whatever it is, go back to that source that really wanted to get you there and use it as a springboard to drive you forward. Now, there's many different options when it comes to coming up with a webcomic theme. Right here on this signpost, you just have genres listed. You have gaming, non sequitur, superhero, furry. I mean, those are the broad scopes. There's so many more elements that come into play, and it could get dizzying. What we want to do is start chopping away at the things we know we don't want and come up with something that is pretty original, has your voice included, and will get you off to a really great start. What you don't want to do, you don't want to start with something that you're not interested in. And I hope that is abundantly clear because, I mean, why would you want to start a hobby that you're not interested in? Webcomicking is a hobby. At least it is in the start. And you don't want to be doing it if it's a chore. So you also don't want to be doing it if you're not interested in the subject that you chose. You also don't want to choose a topic that you're not knowledgeable in. You want to start with what you know because you may get enough off the canvas and get maybe 5 or 10 comics out there, but if you're not really adverse in the subject, you're not going to have a very big well to go back to. You also don't want to go out there and make a webcomic based on a genre's financial success. If there's something like nutrition, you think it's going to hit home with everybody who's health conscious, goes to the gym, or takes diet pills and everything like that, and it's a broad market. It sells well on Facebook, it sells well on Google, it's something people are interested in buy, but it may not necessarily translate well into comics. If you are genuinely interested in that weight loss niche or the nutrition niche or whatever, then go for it. Start it off and see where it goes. But if you're getting into it just for the sake of maybe roping in some of the customers from actual products, then you might not be going down the right avenue. And you don't want to go out and make a carbon copy of someone else's work. I mean, there's not only is there copyright laws that you're going to be up against, but you also are just going to be called a ripoff, and you don't want that. Like, you see a lot of very similar comics out there if you start looking at some of the social media, and people like let it go, but you don't see those comics getting many upvotes or many likes or anything like that. You want to find originality, and you want to find a way to tell it in your own voice and not rip off somebody else's work. Because, if somebody else has done it, then they've probably done a lot with it. And everything that they've left is going to be repetitious. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to just flat out copy somebody else's work. So, let's move on. Okay, now we're going to hash out some ideas. And I came up with this little chart, which by no means needs to be contained to this 3x3 matrix, but I'm just going to show you what you can do to hash out a new idea. So say you start with the genres that you're interested in. Well, I'm interested in humor. That's usually my first and foremost. I go to that all the time. It's what I like. It's what I know. For the sake of filling this all out, I'm just going to keep going. Serial comics and adventure. These are three genres that I could be interested in. Now, subject and theme is your meat and potatoes. It's really the core of what your comic will be about. Some ideas that I have tossed around in the past: fatherhood. I have a wealth of information about that. I can come up with 5 new ideas every day because of my experiences with my family. It's a great place to start. If you have a family, whether you're young and you are relating to how your parents act with you, or you're old and you're relating how your kids act with you, family relations are a great place to start. Engineering, I was an engineer. And of course, superhero, because I just happen to love superheroes. Who doesn't, frankly? Now, the art style, the reason why I have the art style in here is because the art style can really define your theme, your tone. You're going to have a completely different comic on your hands if you change up how it looks. You know, if something like Dick Tracy was drawn like X Cassidy is done with the stick figures, then, you know, it's obviously going to be weird and surreal. In this process, playing around with different art styles is going to be the key to really honing in on what you're trying to convey. Adventure Time, that's a cartoon on Cartoon Network. I don't think it needs much introduction. It's with the silly faces, the noodle arms and everything. I love what is going on there. That's a place that I like to start. C-Lab. If you caught this a few years back, great show. Has that old Hanna-Barbera style from the 1970s. And why not just stick figure, because we talked about it. Alright, so we have some choices here. And now we could go through this matrix and say, oh, I want a humorous engineering comic that is in the style of C-Lab, or I can have an adventurous fatherhood comic that is drawn like stick figures. You know, mix them up, and of course you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many choices you want on each row, but you get the idea. You're trying to hash out what you know, what you can do, and then trying to find a good mix. When it came time for me to do Supe, I did this exercise and I jotted down. I had humor. I wanted the superhero genre, or the superhero theme, because I was working for a website that needed a comic that can complement the content on that website. So I went with that, and the way I drew it was in that Adventure Time, Simpsons type of look, because I thought it gave it that silly quality that would take it away from anything close to, you know, say Marvel or DC, and it would just give it some type of lightheartedness, despite some nasty things that have gone on in the comic strip. But wait a second, my idea is not original. Well, yeah, you're probably right, because this day and age, really, everything has been done once. You're going to find that if you're making a cat comic, there's probably 1,000 cat comics out. The formula that you come up with has probably been looked at before, probably been sketched at some point before. What's going to separate yours from the rest is your voice. Now, take 2 creative ideas. For instance, you have Peanuts, Charles Schulz's Peanuts, and you have South Park. Okay? I know South Park isn't a comic, but, you know, for this example, they both consist of a bunch of friends in the 3rd or 4th grade. They both go to school. They both have issues at home with their siblings and whatnot. So if you pitched both of those ideas, they would look pretty much the same. Now, if you looked at Peanuts, the humor in Peanuts, and you looked at the humor in South Park, you would not even say they're even close, because that's what separates them. one is actually has a pretty scathing political commentary with a lot of swears and curse words and everything else that South Park throws in it, and the other one is Peanuts, and they have a dog and a bird, and they have that trombone thing going on for the teacher. But Peanuts is cool too. So my point is that while something may look similar on the surface, if you keep going with it, if you keep changing the angle, if you keep finding another way to make it different, you can actually keep what you had at its core, and you can make something that is original enough. So like I said, it comes down to your voice, because it's what will make you stand out. Now, say if you decided to make a stick figure comic about math humor. Well, no one's going to read your comic, because there's been a very, very popular stick figure comic about math humor in XKCD, and he's doing that quite well. He's knocking it out of the park. Everybody reads his comic who likes that type of humor and appreciates stick figure art. But that doesn't mean that you have to abandon stick figure art, and it doesn't mean that you have to abandon math humor. What you should challenge yourself to do is find another niche, find another angle that can redefine it. Maybe you change up the drawing a little bit. Maybe you change up the, what about the math? I don't know enough about math to even tell you what to do on that, but I'm sure there's some way to redefine it and then make it your own. Because what you don't want to be doing is making XKCD again. No one's going to care for that, and everyone's just going to regard you as a sellout and a ripoff. So there you have it. You have the tools right now. Go out, go through that chart, find something that you're interested in, find an art style that you can handle, and do a couple test comics. See how they come out. Tell one joke in 3 different ways, and start forming that voice. And then the next time you come back, we're going to start digging in and making your webcomic. I'll see you later.